For further analysis, we're joined by Spencer Critchley. He's an American politics analyst. Spencer, welcome. So when Trump and von der Leyen walked into this meeting today, both rated the chances of getting a deal at 50-50. And in the weeks leading up to this, of course, the transatlantic relations have been pretty tense. How did they reach this outcome?
Well, I suspect both sides had a lot to lose if they actually went any further towards the threatened trade war. Where we end up, based on what we know so far, is the improvement we frequently see with Trump's negotiations, where we go from awful to simply very bad. So instead of steady progress towards zero tariffs, we're at 15% tariffs, which in effect, not just in effect, but in reality, are a tax on American consumers and businesses, as well as a blow to the European Union's economy. I would also note it shouldn't be missed that the pervasive corruption of the Trump administration was on full display, given the location at Turnberry, which is part of Trump's steady habit of holding these events at his own properties and having the cash that has to be paid, the really quite significant cash, including U.S. taxpayer cash to support his huge entourage, goes into his own pocket, as so much of his activity ends up doing, i.e. profiting him directly. I also want to note how embarrassing it is that world leaders have to go through this ritual now of flattering Trump's tender ego. And so, even Ursula von der Leyen was talking in Trumpian terms of this deal is and what a tough negotiator he is. And, frankly, that's just embarrassing.
And Spencer, Republican lawmakers back in the States have been quick to celebrate, of course, saying, that Trump could pull this off without significant retaliation from the EU is a big win. But how much do you think this deal is going to be a win for Trump domestically, especially given, as you say, that consumers are going to get a raw deal as a result of this?
Yeah, sooner or later, some realities just become undeniable. Trump lives in a world of invented reality, which is a world that increasingly people in not just the United States, but across the developed world are choosing to live in, often with a lot of support, by carefully selecting the media they consume so that it'll support their fantasy version of reality. But now and then when some things happen, like a war starts or prices shoot up, reality has a way of reasserting itself. And there has to be some way that all of these tariffs start showing up in the economy as they already are and start having a direct effect on people's lives. People are beginning to notice, and it's quite likely they'll continue to notice. Unless, of course, Trump continues to just back away from them. Much of what he portrays as a win turns out to be him reversing course. Von der Leyen highlighted that aspect as well when she emphasized that one of the key values of this deal is stability and predictability, because Trump does so much damage simply by changing his mind every day or so. But to the extent that he sticks with these tariffs, somebody has to pay the bill. And that starts with American corporations, and then they decide how much of it they pass on to consumers. But either way, that cost gets paid by Americans.
And Donald Trump had said today that this deal's going to be great for American car manufacturers and farmers. Do you agree with that?
Well, I should note, I'm not an economist, but based on following this story pretty carefully, I think I can comment on that as well. As one example of the, again, fantastical nature of this, Trump's habit of just trying to conjure reality as he goes, he maintains, I believe it's a 50% tariff on European steel and aluminum. And that might have some protective function for American steel and aluminum companies, but it's widely understood that for every job you save in that industry, you end up costing many, many times the same number of jobs in all of the many manufacturing industries that depend on steel and aluminum as key inputs, like car manufacturers, for example. So that's right there in the United States. It ends up being just an enormous loser, that kind of policy. Overall, the movement towards free trade, the steady march towards essentially zero tariffs, I think the U.S. was at an average tariff rate of 2.4% reciprocally with its trading partners. It has taken many decades to get tariffs down to that level, and it has seen a global boom in prosperity, not always evenly distributed, which has been a serious problem in the United States, but a global boom in prosperity overall during the course of those decades. For well understood economic principles, Trump is trying to return us with his tariffs-based policy essentially to the early 19th century.
Spencer Critchley, American politics analyst, thank you so much for your time here on TRT World.